I'm a libertarian. What I'm getting is,
did you vote for Joe Jorgensen or Trump?
Who?
Joe Jorgensen. That was the perfect answer. Thank you.
Oh, hi, everybody. Didn't see you there. Isn't that a dumb comment? This is Tyler Janke. This is the Libertarian Podcast Review. And my surprise, you broke in on me, or did I break on you? I'm at work. I'm wearing a suit. I'm wearing a tie. Actually, only from the waist up because I had court this morning on Zoom. So what am I going to do here? This is, like I said, Libertarian Podcast Review. We review podcasts. What am I going to do today? I'm actually going to play you a clip. I have another podcast. It's called Between Two Wheels Podcast. It's mostly about bike racing, Europe, locally in California and all around. But every once in a while, I take on a few different seedier topics, and I did last year, and this one got me a lot of hate. So I thought this would be the perfect venue for you to enjoy it. It's about a kid that gets arrested from an overzealous cop, a little donut eater down in Florida. He's not little. He's a big one. He's a big one, as you'll see. I'll play clips from it. It's about 40 minutes. Stick around, enjoy it. And if you want to know more about cycling, you could definitely join that podcast. That's not why I'm doing this. I'm doing this as a placeholder because I've got other things coming up and it takes a little bit of time. Check my show also with Josh Smith on Break the Cycle. I was on his show last week. And like and subscribe, and we will see you up. Tower Gang coming up. But right now, Between Two Wheels Podcast. Go. Go. And welcome everybody to another edition of the Between Two Wheels Podcast. This is your host, Tyler Janke. Bad boys. We're going to talk today, maybe a controversial issue, maybe something that you will end up hating about me in general. Basically, there's a young cyclist in Florida. He's been arrested. It's wrong on so many levels. We're going to go down. We're going to have some video to go along with this. So you might want to check in on our YouTube channel. But we're going to talk about it. We're going to discuss the whole issue. And you know what? It's your fault. That's right. Coming up, Between Two Wheels Podcast.
Are you acting like a bloody fool? If you get hot, then you must get cool. Bad boys, what you gonna do? Or what you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, what you gonna do?
All right, bad boys, like I said, welcome. This is Tyler Janke, the Between Two Wheels Podcast. Hope you're all doing fine today. You've probably heard about it on the internet. Facebook had a post and people were going crazy in the cycling world about this kid in Florida, 18-year-old Javier Lopez. He was arrested for, I don't know, was he running a stop sign? We're going to go through it. We've got video of all this stuff. So we're going to be able to show you that. And we're going to be able to do a little breakdown of that. We got a little news clip, some other things. But I'm also going to take a controversial opinion about this that I'm probably going to piss everybody off. Maybe we can get, I'm going to tick you off, but in a way that my goal here is to get a little bit more of a kumbaya moment and to maybe have some of us coming together to solve some problems. Look, people see issues out there. We see this with the political side right now. Some people can point out problems, and the solutions are vastly different. You know, you're trying to drink out of a fire hose. Are you going to turn off the valve at the end? Or are you going to try to do something weird? I think the solutions a lot of time are nearsighted. You got to go back to the problem, and maybe we'll solve some things there. So what exactly happened? Well, let's take a look, first of all, at a news story we've got going on here with out of Florida. And they broke it down. They have a little bit of
Tonight,
it.
a young bike rider
right
is in trouble. He was thrown into jail for allegedly ignoring deputies and riding away.
But his attorney says that is not what happened, insisting the 18-year-old cyclist was just riding with family and friends and did not hear the deputy. Seminole County Sheriff's deputies say the teen and his friend blew through a stop sign at the corner of Florida Avenue and
this
Van
is kind of a
Avenue
even-handed take. Give the police side, give the kid side, but then we're going to see the body cam, and we're going to see a dash cam, and maybe get a little better breakdown. Oh, look at that, Will Ferrell.
Talking about this one.
I know he's doing news now.
He was doing traffic enforcement right here at this corner. He says a couple young men on bikes came zooming around the corner, went through the stop sign, and kept going.
Later.
He says he yelled at them to stop. They didn't. He says he got in his truck, pulled alongside them and yelled for them to stop. They didn't. He says finally he pulled in front of them and had to slow his truck down to make them
evasive maneuvers.
One of them, not both, just one of them, and charged that young man with fleeing and eluding and resisting
I love
arrest.
this guy in Blades of Glory.
Javier Lopez, his dad, and about a dozen other bicyclists who ride together every Saturday were finishing a 65-mile workout when it ended like this. Lopez in handcuffs, taken to jail in the back of that Seminole County Sheriff's Office truck. His family's representative gave us these pictures.
Our involvement is because an 18-year-old boy was handcuffed and thrown in jail, and we're not quite sure why.
Rachel Maney is the national director of Bike Law, a network of independent bicycle attorneys fighting to protect bicycle riders and their rights to ride on the street like Javier does every day, she says.
My hope, in all honesty, is to resolve this quickly so that Javier can put this behind him.
This is Javier's mugshot after he was taken to jail and booked on resisting arrest and fleeing at eluding police. But Maney says that's not him. He's an 18-year-old college kid.
I guess maybe not. Maybe he's just a nice kid.
Last year, never been in trouble, rides hundreds of miles every week with his family and friends. You believe the boys just didn't hear the deputy?
I do. That's my personal belief as a cyclist.
The deputy wrote in his report that he yelled at the two young men
come back to
stop
this report
after
in a
they
little
rolled
bit.
through a stop sign, and then they looked back at the deputy acknowledging his presence and his command when he got in his truck and pulled alongside them with lights and sirens. He writes that one of the riders again looked at him and put his hands up.
I don't believe that they turned around to wave.
Puts his hands up.
What
Is
I
that an
believe
exasperation
is that
or acknowledgement? You'll see the issue here.
Which could look like a wave to a non-cycling person for the vehicle behind him to go ahead and pass safely.
And she also wants to know why it was just Javier arrested and charged and not that other young man who was riding with him. So far, the sheriff's office tonight is not talking. They say their arrest report speaks for itself. For now, live in Seminole County, Eric Von Eyck and Getting Results, News 6.
All right. For those of you who just be able to only have the audio version of this, basically the news reporter looked a lot like a young Will Ferrell. So there's a career move. Anyway, that's kind of their take, and we're going to walk through some of this, and I'm going to show some video, and I'm going to talk about it as well. So if you only have the audio side of this, maybe you want to check out the YouTube channel. We'll have a link in there to that where we break all that down, but we'll also try to describe it as best we can. And those of you that are out there riding bikes, you'll be able to kind of give some of this. So that's also, before we do that, bike law. I just saw Rachel Maney. She comes out there. She's helping us out. And I thought she did a pretty good statement. Originally, this came out on Facebook, and I actually reached out to the people that had posted it looks like some of the other persons in the riot. I don't know if it's like a coaching service or what have you that has had some things. That post has been pulled down, no response from them. So I'm not getting anything out of that. But I thought maybe we would kind of read along here with what they had posted on their bike law blog, bikelaw.com. Here's a picture of Javier getting arrested. You've probably seen that. And his resplendent in his kit. It looks a lot like the new Trek training outfit. But Monday, February 10, I decided to give a statement to Channel 6 today because the Lopez family is understandably upset that articles and reports which pieced together hearsay from a social media post, that's the one, I think the one on Facebook that kind of blew up, and police report do not accurately reflect what occurred on Saturday morning. Investigative reporter Mike Holfield and folks at Click Orlando have been incredibly supportive of our efforts to make Florida a safer place to ride a bicycle, and I felt comfortable clearing the air as much as possible at this juncture. Of course, we all wish we could share more, but Javier's best interest is what's important, and we are all still hoping for swift justice, for which sometimes ironically takes time. I felt it was important to express that our involvement with this situation has nothing to do with Javier's alleged failure to stop at a stop sign. We'll break that down as well. I did want to reiterate our belief that obeying traffic laws and respecting law enforcement is the responsibility of all road users, regardless of the number of wheels we choose. Okay. Wheel fluid, I guess it would be. What makes this different, this situation so troublesome, isn't whether a boy or two failed to come to a complete stop. What's disturbing is that a boy was thrown into jail for something he didn't understand and something that both he and only the one eyewitness insisted he didn't do. At the time, we do not have any evidence to support what is in the police report, but we do have video evidence which corroborates a testimony given by both Javier, the eyewitness, and several other cyclists that were on the ride Saturday morning. It's important to to express that every cyclist on the ride was an observer to Javier being cuffed and taken to jail, acknowledged that he had, in fact, not come to a complete stop, that issuing a warning or ticket for the moving violation would have been a reasonable response by the deputy sheriff. No one was seeking special treatment or claiming to be above the law. Our continued hope is that there is a resolution in the next couple of days that allows a fine young man with no prior convictions, tickets, or arrest to be put in this horrible experience and put it behind him, focus on things he loves, going to college, working on his local bike shop, and riding his bike. Okay, so I think that was actually a very good breakdown from bike law and kind of just from them answering some of the questions, putting it out there, taking responsibility, yet at the same time not being, necessarily passive about their client's position either. Because I mean, it's kind of a big deal. So maybe we should go to two different videos. We're going to see here. This is a 4-way stop. This is much different than the situation I expected. I expected it to be kind of a bigger road. Cyclists come flying down there. Look, so let me give you a breakdown if you're not familiar with kind of how cycling works as far as group rides go. This happens all the time. We have weekends, a big bunch of riders get together and we do group rides. And a lot of times those rides are somewhat competitive. So it's almost like you're doing a race out there, but you have traffic to worry about and you have stop signs. And a lot of times you're rolling up, maybe you have a big group. This one didn't look particularly big. There's 2 riders kind of what they would say off the front. They have a gap on the other 2. On the other riders, there's about 12 or so that come back later. And maybe you're doing kind of team tactics stuff. Maybe you're doing semi-racing, but you're getting a good workout in. And some of those, like I said, those tactics take place. But you've got to do this within the confines of traffic and being safe out there. So what we end up doing a lot of times, you end up coming to stops and you're rolling them. You're taking a good look. If there's no traffic to be seen, you're kind of going through the stop. But we're always very aware of this, and you try to, look, we got to coexist with traffic. We do these all the time in Northern California, Colorado, Florida, all these different places. Cyclists get together. I mean, I was just out here a few weekends ago, and there's great weather, and there's tons of riders on the road. There's all kinds of skill levels. There's, higher end ex-pros and pros out there that are doing, group rides together. There's just your older people that are riding. There, your couples. There's a bunch of people out there riding. And for the most part, you're not getting a lot of, we're not having, I didn't see any deaths on that day. Doesn't mean it doesn't happen. But for the most part, cyclists and the traffic, we coexist fairly well. There's, look, as a cyclist, the car is going to always win. So you got to be very careful on that aspect. And, it could happen if you're in another car as well. But we're symbiotic in a sense. So anyway, let's take a look here at this first video. And now these are the videos that have been released. Bike Law posted them up. I'm going to be playing them here, and I'm going to be commenting because it's the sound just exactly how I found them. I don't know if Bike Law produced the sound, did any editing. I doubt it. I think these are exactly as they came from the police department, which is a little interesting, and we will kind of see because they do some interesting stuff with the sound they got. Okay, so let's do this first one. This is guys ride it up to the stop. They're slowing way down. They're looking both ways. I mean, they almost come to a stop, and then they roll. This is the dash cam. You see an officer walk out there. It looks like his face is blurred. He's waving. I mean, he's not in his car. Neither one of these 2 guys are in their car. And now it's 20 seconds since they went through. 22. You can start to see the approaching riders. There's another officer. There's 2 officers. So this guy turns a corner and he heads down there. So they're kind of hit. Oh, there goes the siren. And now he guns it up to the riders. Pretty loud siren, by the way. He's going really fast because these guys are fleeing the scene. I mean, they're single file. There's no bike lane. So now he comes up to them. Still going single file. I mean, they're just, 22 miles an hour. They kind of look back. They're like, oh, what's going on? Pull over. Now he yells, pull over. And as he yells, pull over, then they're basically, and we'll go to the next video here as well. So he yells, pull over. And as he yells, pull over, the sirens are blaring. It's tough to understand if there was much of a ability to hear any of that. So now let's go to what we would call, well, they call it the body cam. Okay, so very similar video, body cam from the same officer, and we're going to see a little, once again, another perspective of this. Okay, so we'll roll it as it looks like the cyclists are just coming into the four-way, and there's a lot of trees. Now, we also can look at the charging document where they say that the stop sign was unobstructed. There's a lot of trees around here, and it's kind of the country, the little roads. I don't know why, first of all, why these two officers, it looks like it's a four-way stop, why they're at all on this particular place here. But let's go to this video. Okay, riders come through. He motions with his hand. You can't hear anything. Once again, they didn't produce any sound. So now he waddles over. He had a radar gun. There's two officers out there, protect and serve. Gets in his car. Once again, you still don't have any sound coming yet. Oh, there it goes. So now he's screaming out. Okay, so he's in the driver's seat. He's going to approach the riders on the passenger side, okay? We heard him yell from the dash cam video previously. Takes me a while. I mean, 30, 40 seconds. It's now been 50 seconds since they went through the intersection. I think this is pull over. So all you can hear is a siren. Pull over. You can hear the siren, and the kids are supposed to hear. Now he says, and they said in the news report that he had yelled at them many times to stop. So they didn't pull. He's yelling at them, and now we're also going to see him. Okay, so they pull over. He gets out of his truck. Obviously, it's so dangerous. They're now on their bikes still.
I told you to stop.
Told you to stop.
And you kept going. Because I stopped. No, you didn't. Yeah.
California stop, maybe.
What are you doing, man? Because I'm putting you in handcuffs.
Now he immediately handcuffs this one kid that has the accent and talks back, right, Lopez. Now. The other one, he doesn't do anything. Their legs are over the top tube.
What are you doing, man?
Do not fight me.
Don't fight me. Stop resisting. These are key words because to him it sets up any kind of, if there's an incident, now he can put this kid down if he has to, and he's probably justified because he said stop resisting. Now his legs over the top tube. He's got cleats on. It's not resisting. It's simply an issue of balance. Also, you can notice the kid had headphones on. Okay, so remember he was coming up to him, yelling at him,
and then I told you to stop
with the sirens going, with the noise of his engine, and they're supposed to be able to hear this. And he had waved them down previously too.
Told him to stop, and he didn't stop.
Told him to stop.
Fantastic.
Fantastic. Kind of being.
He's gonna be out 1050 bicycle times 2. Gonna be out at Florida Avenue by Stone Street.
Just calling it in.
What are you doing?
Kids in cuffs. I mean, that was an immediate handcuff job.
Yeah, I'm about 14 right now. I'm 10-4 though.
No real explanation as to what happened.
What's that?
We just didn't
Hey, we didn't hear
I
it,
told
man.
y'all
Come on,
to stop,
let's
and
work
I'm
through that.
riding behind you with lights and sirens, and y'all ain't stopping. You can take the bike. You can have the bike.
Dad comes up there, takes the bike, says you can take the bike. Dad has the same kid as he does.
That's a felony right there.
That's a felony right there. He's telling him.
Y'all can go over there.
Yeah, this is a young guy.
This is a what?
A young guy. Yeah, we're just
Young guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
First time for everything.
First time for everything, the officer says, because this is no big deal. It's just, hey, everyone deserves the right to get thrown in cuffs and taken to jail.
The wind's in our ears. We can barely hear anything, especially with all this stuff on.
Yeah.
You know,
once we did hear you, we did pull over.
Today's not the time for roadside jury. Okay.
What was that?
Today's not the day for roadside jury.
Roadside jury. So the kids, he doesn't want to give them the chance to have any. Look, they're not going to have their due process out there that day. So there's just one other thing we'll take a look at, and then we'll do a little breakdown of kind of what my issues are. Okay, so the officer obviously had a lot of things going on there. Guys come through the stop, they are not going fast at all. I mean, these kids, if I saw something like that, and we often see cops out when we're out doing group rides, sometimes we'll go through about that pace. You kind of come, you get, sometimes I've, wanted to put my foot down, and you do just to make sure. But the cops are usually a little bit more sensical, at least maybe because there's so many cyclists out there where we're at, that they take that into account. Now, the officer you're looking to look here, and I'm going to show one more thing up here on the screen here, and we're going to see kind of the charging document. So this is what I got off of the video screen here. I think to take a note, they're charging him with resist officer, flee, elude, with lights, sirens active, bond of $8,000 for that. Resist officer, obstruction without violence. Thank you for that, at least $500. So, and then there was a nice little, right up here. He's really, and this is part of what the police have to do. If you go in, they have to indicate that they're, governmental and that they're wearing their badge and all this stuff. I was wearing a department issued jacket and my badge pinned to the front jacket visible with both my department patches visible. Well, obviously not visible to the kid when they're doing the writing and other. But what's interesting when you see that document is there's no charge, at least maybe they're going to change this, but there's no charge there for actually running the actual stop sign itself. Resisting arrest of what? What was he being under? Why were you detaining him? I understand the document. I mean, we saw in the video the kid went through the stop sign, but you think in the actual charging document you would have the underlying issue that the cop had the ability, the priority, the obligation, the duty, the right to actually talk to him. Because an officer comes up and asks for your papers. What is this, Germany? You aren't under the obligation to, unless there's, probable cause or reasonable suspicion of something, which they have to actually articulate. You're not obligated to, be adhering to his every whim and wish, which this guy obviously was really concerned that there's something wasn't going to be taking place until he was. Look, this guy obviously had, the officer, I think he had a problem. But why are we here? And why is this your problem? Well, we love making rules in this country. And so you see a lot of outrage here. And I think it's unless you're doing everything in your life to make sure that this situation is not hypocritical for you, maybe it's something you need to take back. And I think there's two sides of this on the political spectrums that are both at fault in a sense. And this is where I'm probably going to get into trouble with everybody. And maybe this is where Tyler gets canceled. Maybe this is where this show is the last episode that anybody's really going to care about. But look, we all love making rules, we being the society. And I think that's where, so from the left perspective, a lot of restrictions. Kamala Harris running for president. She's no longer, but when she was the DA here in San Francisco and the AD for Attorney General of California, she was big on, she was putting parents in jail for truancy, fining them for that. She was big onto prosecutions for weed and all these things that she was real big on. Look, Governor Newsom just passed 1,200 new laws for the state of California that went in or going into effect coming in 2020. There's not all the archaic laws that are being taken off the books and replaced. This is just additional all the time. There's more and more and more, and there's got to be an enforcement procedure. How do we enforce these? Trump is looking to outlaw vaping. We're going to start arresting people for that. You've got marijuana laws, opioids. He's all over. There's many kind of things we can go on from both sides of the spectrum that are interested in passing laws. You've got just some crazy stuff that's out there. I mean, there's all kinds of always weird laws that are still in the books, but one of them, this guy, this senator from Oklahoma a few years ago wanted to pass a law that would outlaw the consumption of any food product intended for human consumption which contains aborted human fetuses. I didn't know. Is that usually a problem not in Oklahoma, right? I don't know that they're eating aborted fetuses there. And even when asked, he's I don't know if it's a problem, but maybe he feels this is a way for he's going to get reelected or someone had some problem. But it seems pretty ridiculous. So you've got once again laws that are coming on the back up just one moment of stuff that you're actually the laws themselves are then putting the police in a position of because you've got to have someone enforcing them. Eric Garner in New York, famous case, kind of an overweight guy, more than kind of, and he was selling Lucy's. If you don't know what that is, there's basically individual cigarettes. He was selling those on the street, which, if you ever look at condiments as an example or something and it says not for individual resale, well, that's pretty much what he was doing with cigarettes. He was selling them on the street one by one, and the police were not going to have a part of that. And I don't know why they would care, maybe because they're not getting their tax out of it. So therefore the police then are are then going in and enforcing it. And what ended up happening is, I don't know if he's resisting or he's a big guy. They're trying to cuff him. They put him down to the ground. Next thing you know, they choke him out and he's dead. Okay, he's dead over some loose cigarettes. And look, one side will say that's ridiculous. It's overstepping by the police. And the other side is like, look, the police are just doing their jobs. And, I'm just saying, why are these laws in effect? There was a famous Supreme Court case several years ago that came up, and I'm blanking on the name, but it might have been Loving. But anyway, appropriately named. It was a case where I don't know what the issue, but the police came into this couple's house down south, and 2 gay men, they were having sex. And so then they get prosecuted for sodomy because it was still on the books and it was against the law. Basically comes up to the Supreme Court, and Clarence Thomas is like, I don't remember what the ruling was on it. However, his comments were, this is a ridiculous law, but you need to remove it from the books rather than us nullifying it because that's a law you have on the books. I mean, you're allowing these people to prosecute you for something ridiculous. You're allowing them to enforce it and, come into your home on suspicion of something you're doing, a private act. Recall it from the books, basically. But then you have the other side. You have the other side that is basically defending the police in all matters. I don't know who's gonna defend these 2 guys, or at least this particular officer. Maybe you're a policeman and you're gonna defend it for some reason, and you've got justifiable reasons, such as, hey, the kids, they rolled the stop sign. Now, what would have happened if the kid out there just was much more resistant? Maybe didn't understand English at all. And next thing you know, there's a fight. And why pick on him and not the other guy? I mean, it was really odd there. And next thing you know, the police officer is putting himself in a position where there could be a confrontation, like the Eric Garner thing. Look, police officers are not just born out of some primordial ooze, like you'd see in Minority Report, where they just are all knowing and happen to know who the good and the bad and what's going to go happen. These are just your normal people. So you have your job. There's competent people, there's incompetent people, there's people under stress, other ones take it. The problem you have here, though, is each of these officers are put into a position of authority. He says, we don't need to have a roadside jury. Well, that's totally what you're doing. When you're arresting this kid at this point, you've gone beyond just giving him a ticket and being able to have his due process. You're basically, you're imprisoning him, and you're taking him to jail. What if it's a false? We don't have a recourse in this country of the police arrest you, and maybe it's a bad arrest, maybe it's a bad guy. You don't then get to charge the police officer with false imprisonment. The qualified immunity issue is probably one that would clean up some of this problems. But you've got an issue, and it reminds me. Look, I'm an attorney. I've done criminal law, I've done civil. I only do family law at this point. And part of the reason was I just got a little tired of going up against the state all the time. And police officers, they are considered they are the highest, basically, in the respect category when you go into court as a witness. The judge sees it that way. He's got his bailiff. His bailiffs are there. I like actually all the ones that I work with. Good guys. There's a few that but these are just people. They're not some sort of heroic. And you can maybe take account of who they're just normal people. Normal people with a lot of stress. I couldn't imagine being out there every day having the crap you see people at their worst. I understand that myself. And you can't help but have possibly a little bias. Maybe this guy was a little upset about his own fitness in this case. Maybe he was a little upset about just whatever in general. Maybe he's upset about having to be out there collecting revenue in this case. So anyway, you got some issue. And my distaste of doing that kind of thing, I mean, a lot of it has to do with the client, being able to afford the defense and going up because the presumption of innocent until proven guilty. This kid was immediately arrested, and yes, he's going to have his day in court, and the presumption from the court is that, but you've already arrested it. You put a kid in Lycra in jail. That's not the kind of outfit you want to be in jail with, especially at 18 years old. And it's the police officer here really had kind of first time for everything, got to learn, we're going to do roadside jury, But it's pretty nasty and harrowing, I imagine, for that kid to be arrested, taken to jail, booked, everything. Especially, you can tell there he didn't have the best of his English wasn't top notch. He was speaking fine, but there's a little bit. It's just nothing is good about it. Anyway, back to my experiences. It reminds me of the O.J. Simpson trial, and you look at that and you go, oh my word, he was able to get his dream team. He spent, I think, approximately $4.5 million for his defense, and you go, that's ridiculous. Someone with a lot of money can end up buying their way their freedom. Okay, you look at that, and that you can take it from that perspective, which is kind of true. And then you add in, how much the prosecution spent? They spent $9 million for their bad dream team to prosecute O.J. Simpson, and did it horribly. That's ridiculous. And so you get someone, Javier, he's got to put up some money. Got to do bond. You've got to get an attorney to be out there and help him. And if he's only, maybe it's going to cost him $20,000 to do something like this. But the state, if they really want to push it, they'll be able to, push more than that. Maybe defend this officer, which it seems like kind of an absurd thing to do. Okay, so what's us all about? Well, once again, we put these laws in place. We have these police officers who are out there tasked to enforce the laws, which makes sense. Someone's going to do that. But why are these guys kind of on the road out there shooting their radar gun on this nice Saturday morning with nothing else to do? I thought their duty was protect and serve. That's kind of what we've done. No, we've got these laws, and we've turned these police officers into revenue resources. And we can talk about that. There's a famous issue, the Marjorie Stone Douglas school in Parkland, Florida. There was, the shooting that happened down there. There was a police officer on campus, and 6 students ended up filing a federal lawsuit against him. Scott Peterson, bad name, filed suit against him and Broward County for not protecting them. And that's not actually what the Supreme Court has now determined with multiple cases. Here's a little. Neither the Constitution nor state law impose a general duty upon police officers or other governmental officials to protect individuals, persons from harm, even when they know the harm will occur, said Darren L. Hutchinson, a professor and associate dean at the University of Florida Law School. Police can watch someone attack you, refuse to intervene, and not violate the Constitution. Supreme Court has repeatedly held that the government only has a duty to protect persons who are, quote, in custody, he pointed out. So Javier, once he's been in custody, now they have a duty, once he's handcuffed, because nothing ever bad happens to them once that's happened. The Supreme Court has actually handed down rulings that are in line with this case. In the cases of DeShaney v. Winnebago and the town of Castle Rock v. Gonzales, the Supreme Court has ruled the police agencies are not obligated to provide protection to citizens. In other words, police are well within their right to pick and choose when to intervene to protect the lives and property of others, even when a threat is apparent. And by the way, Castle Rock, it's a pretty egregious case. I don't know if you really want to actually take a look at that. So what do we have there? Maybe this is a public service in a sense of starting to understand that, yes, you can call the police, someone's breaking in your house. I'm sure that happens all the time, or you can learn how to protect yourself. But what is their duty, and should be your expectation? This incident with this kid on the side of the road, there's sadly, I just saw some Twitter videos the other day. Some police officer kids are arguing in school, and this police officer ends up choking the kid, passing out, to restrain him. I don't think that's necessary. That's not really what you have. There's videos like that all the time. And yes, you may think that those are a little bit overdone. So you've got, once again, one side that tends to think that the blue line, the thin blue line, the blue line matters, blue lives matter, what have you, and they can do no wrong. And a lot of times these officers are actually following the procedure, and they're doing as it's laid out there. So they can be kind of okay and acquitted on that. It's tough to get a police officer when they really do something bad. But on the other side, if you're making all these wrong laws, Kamala Harris, she's truancy, she's prosecuting, she's forcing the police to go into these neighborhoods to convict and arrest and put themselves in a harm and put the community at odds with the police all the time to enforce these kind of laws, which is that's her own constituency. That's a horrible thing to do as well. So I'm trying to come at this from both angles. Maybe we can get some resolution. Special treatment. They had mentioned that was Javier. Was he deserving of special treatment? I don't think there was any special treatment needed. There was just maybe a little bit more common sense. If he had been a police officer, do you think he would have been let off at the time? Yeah, probably so. If his dad had come up there, or the other guy that was riding with him had been a police officer, just said the right things to this officer, do you think he would have just backed down? Yeah. And if you think that's the case, then there's also another problem. There is special treatment, and that's ridiculous. He should not be able to. It's either let's have some sense about this, and let's either take, someone's doing wrong, you're arresting him for doing wrong, or you're giving him a ticket for doing wrong, or you're letting him off for different reasons, not just because of who they are, what they look like, gender, anything else. Look, we are cyclists out there. Sadly, we do break the law. We do roll through stop signs, but I don't think those should be thought of as strict liability. There's strict liability, and then there's what's called mens rea. Mens rea is your thought process. You have to have an intent to do crimes. A lot of times there's intent crimes, murder, breaking and entering, those kind of things where you, favorite one is joyriding versus stealing a car. If you go with the intent to take the keys, get this car, and your intent at the time when you're doing it is to, steal it, then that's stealing. But if your intent is actually, and this is total law school hypothetical, because how are you going to determine this? But if your intent, you can prove that your intent was to bring the car back, then it's just joyriding. And there's a difference there. Well, then there's strict liability. Strict liability is, doesn't matter what your intent is, if this X, Y, and Z was done, you're liable for it. And that's the way the officer is doing this. I mean, you look at these riders, they're slowing down. Yeah, they didn't put their foot down. I don't know what the actual law is there in Florida, but it is not an egregious thing. And then to arrest them, and kids got headphones in, they're screaming siren, he's yelling at them to pull over, probably had no clue. There was no evading look there. Plus the body cam and the dash cam don't show the rider's reaction as he's coming up on them. So that's a little disappointing. But yes, we do end up rolling through stop signs. There was a case here a few years ago. A friend of mine, won't mention, that the news came out, and we're talking to people on group rides and, talking about running stop signs. He's like, no, we don't do that. And then they started off on their group ride. Didn't realize that the news crew was going to be following them as they filmed that guy going through stop signs as he just said he doesn't do. So look, this is a complicated issue. I know we're going to get hate on both sides of this thing, but you know what? This is kind of my thing. If you want to complain online, you see something like this and you want to complain online, maybe look back at yourself. Think about how you view all the laws that are out there, how you view the police officers that are out there doing these jobs. And maybe you need to change your perspective a little bit. You can change things in Congress. You can change things on the local level, in the state Senate, and maybe it affects how its reactions and these things go back and forth. Hey, that's my only solution. Otherwise, my big goal here is to keep cyclists, safe, and to kind of report on this. Plus, I just kind of wanted to mention how what a douchey guy this was, and that he's kind of crazy, and I don't think that that is a good officer. He would probably be bad at almost any other job he's doing. So that's kind of my take on it, and that's just the way we feel about it. So anyway, thank you once again for joining us for the Between Two Wheels podcast. This is Tyler Janke. Hope everyone has a great day out there. Episode 159. Find us on YouTube, everywhere else you can do. Between Two Wheels podcast on Facebook. I expect some comments from this show. I do. So take care.
What you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do?